You know that friend who's always bailing on plans? Sick again, exhausted again, maybe next time? Here's the truth. That friend isn't dodging you. They're guarding something important. If you're the kind of person who gets more genuinely thrilled about a cozy Friday night in sweatpants than a night out on the town, welcome home. You're about to feel deeply understood. Today we're unpacking the psychology behind people who love being home, the things society labels boring, but science calls something entirely different. Think about it for a second. How many times have you turned down an invitation and immediately felt lighter, not guiltier? That reaction alone tells you something. It's not that you dislike people, it's that your body already knows what actually restores you, even before your brain finishes making the excuse. Here's the deal. Extroverts get their energy from being around others. Their battery charges up on noise, movement, and chaos. A crowded room doesn't drain them, it fuels them. But introverts and people who lean towards solitude recharge in quiet. Every social encounter, even an enjoyable one, slowly drains their reserves, the way a phone loses battery even while it's just sitting there running background apps. And home is the one charging station that actually works.
This isn't a personality quirk you can just switch off with enough willpower. It's closer to a setting your nervous system was born with. You can push through a busy week, force smiles at every gathering, say yes to every plan, but eventually your body sends the bill, usually in the form of exhaustion you can't quite explain. And that exhaustion isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's just a heaviness behind the eyes after a normal dinner with friends, or the sudden urge to go silent for the rest of the night after a single FOMO. People who don't share this wiring often mistake it for rudeness or moodiness, when really it's just a nervous system quietly asking for a recharge. Understanding that difference changes everything. It turns "why are you being distant" into "you clearly need some quiet time," and that shift alone can save a lot of relationships. Psychologists refer to this as optimal arousal theory. Some people need heavy stimulation to feel their best. Others thrive on less. It isn't about being lazy or scared. It's simply how their nervous system is built. Put a high-stimulation person and a low-stimulation person in the exact same party, and they'll walk out with two completely different experiences. One buzzing with energy, the other quietly counting down the minutes until they can leave. But there's more to this than introversion alone. Some people gravitate toward home because it hands them a sense of control they can't find anywhere else. Outside, everything's unpredictable. Loud strangers, sudden plan changes, small talk with people who couldn't care less about your answer. At home, though, you're in charge of the lighting, the noise level, the whole atmosphere. For those dealing with anxiety or heightened sensitivity, that control isn't optional. It's essential. Picture this. You walk into a restaurant and the music is too loud. The lighting is harsh. A stranger's conversation is bleeding into yours. For most people, that's mildly annoying. For a highly sensitive nervous system, it's genuinely overwhelming, like trying to think clearly while 10 notifications go off at once. Now picture your own living room. Dim lamp, your own playlist, your own pace. No contest. Researchers who study high sensitivity describe it almost like having the volume knob on your senses turned up higher than average. Smells are stronger, sounds are sharper, other people's moods are easier to pick up on. That's not a flaw. It often comes with deeper empathy and richer emotional processing. But it also means the world can get loud fast, and home becomes the one place where the volume knob finally gets turned back down to a level that feels manageable.
Here's something fascinating. Research shows people who enjoy their own company tend to be more creative, more reflective, and sharper at solving problems. Staying in isn't wasted time. It's actually where great ideas take shape, not inside a packed bar, but in a quiet corner with a good book, or in a late-night train of thought at 2 a.m. There's a reason so many writers, artists, and inventors describe their best breakthroughs happening in silence, not in crowds. Solitude gives the brain room to wander without interruption, to connect ideas that never would have collided in the middle of a loud, distracting environment. The mind needs empty space the same way a room needs empty space to actually be usable.
This is sometimes called the default mode network, the part of your brain that lights up not when you're focused on a task, but when you're doing nothing in particular. Staring at the ceiling, doing the dishes on autopilot, lying on the couch with your thoughts drifting. That's often when the mind quietly stitches ideas together in the background, which is exactly why so many aha moments show up in the shower and not in a meeting room. And let's be real, our culture glorifies going out constantly. The influencers, the highlight reels, the live your best life mentality. Every feed is packed with concerts, trips, group dinners, and it's easy to start believing that a fulfilling life has to be loud to count. But what if your best life looks more like a documentary, a bowl of soup, and absolutely no plans? That's not pathetic. That's self-knowledge.
There's a quiet kind of confidence in knowing exactly what fills you up and refusing to perform a version of fun you don't actually feel. You don't need a highlight reel to prove your weekend meant something. Sometimes the most meaningful thing you did all day was simply let your nervous system rest. Now, some people avoid going out for heavier reasons: social anxiety, old trauma, or depression quietly asking, what's even the point? For them, home can be both a sanctuary and a trap. So it matters to ask yourself, are you staying in because it energizes you or because leaving feels unbearable? One is contentment. The other is avoidance.
This distinction matters more than it seems. Peace looks like choosing your couch and feeling nothing but relief. Avoidance looks like wanting to go, caring about missing out, and still not being able to make yourself open the door. If that second version sounds familiar, it isn't weakness. It's worth talking to someone about, because that kind of heaviness deserves support, not just a cozy blanket. But for the people who genuinely love being home, they're not missing anything. They're simply living life on different terms. They find happiness in the little rituals, the morning coffee ritual, their favorite couch spot, the way sunset light spills across the room. Details most people never slow down enough to notice.
They notice the small things because their world isn't constantly competing for their attention. The particular creak of a familiar chair, the smell of rain through an open window, the comfort of a show they've already seen a dozen times. These aren't consolation prizes. They're the actual reward. There's an entire life happening in the details most people rush past on their way to the next big plan. The first sip of coffee before anyone else is awake. The exact moment a candle makes a room smell like it belongs to you. The satisfaction of finally reorganizing a shelf nobody else will ever notice. None of it makes headlines. All of it makes a life feel like yours. Hit subscribe if this sounds like you. Psychologists call this a low stimulation preference. These people don't rely on the outside world for entertainment. Their inner world already has plenty going on. Give them a notebook, a plant to take care of, or just their own thoughts, and they'll never once complain about being bored. So if you're someone who declines invitations without a hint of guilt, who feels truly content on a solo Saturday, who'd rather rewatch a comfort show than make memories, you're not broken. You're just built for depth instead of noise, for calm instead of performance.
You're not antisocial. You're selectively social, choosing quality over quantity, meaning over motion. And honestly, that's a form of self-respect most people don't discover until much later in life. So tell me, do you genuinely prefer staying in, or do you think we're all just making excuses? And if you want to hear the psychology most people never learn about themselves, the next video is going to hit even harder. Click it. You'll get it.